My name's Casanova Brooks. I am a real estate agent, investor, CEO, but more importantly, I'm a relationship builder. The whole purpose of me being here today is to make sure that each and every one of you feel empowered, that you can take the same journey, that you can accomplish anything that you want to because it's possible. So me coming from inner city Chicago, my parents never owned a house, a car, a business. I was raised by a single mom, and my grandma led the way to be my father.
And what's her name?
Jada.
You the big guy?
Yes. You're the big guy. Achoo. Achoo.
Can you give me your full name?
CJ Griffin. CJ Casanova.
What's so crazy about this is 2 years ago, around Christmas time, I had my grandma and my uncle in town, and we were driving around just looking at Christmas lights. And since we lived right there, this was the last stop that we did because it was the closest to home. And I remember we came in off of Blondo, and I was like, man, these houses, if I could live in any neighborhood Northwest, this would be the neighborhood that I would live in, right? Never knowing that essentially I was speaking it into existence. Here's the house right here that we're building. Being honest, a young black boy, inner city Chicago, everything that I saw growing up was gangs, violence, drugs. When people would see me out on the corner and hey Cass, get up off this corner right now, right? Like something's about to go down, we don't really know what, but we see these cars that we're not familiar with, we need you to get up off this corner. It could have been me, right? I'm no stranger to any of that. You're only one decision away from changing your life, whether that be the good or the bad. There's enough good in this world that if you go out there and you seek it and you surround yourself with other people, no matter what race, nationality, gender that they come from and where they are, those people, if they want to succeed and they want to help you succeed, I think that you're going to be solid. All of my family was from Chicago, so a lot of my family started to migrate to Sioux City just for better opportunities, and word gets around to my grandma and they say, hey, you got to get Cass up out of there. This is way more suitable for a 12, 13-year-old boy than where he's at right now. Next thing I know, less than 2 weeks later, my grandma and I were on a Greyhound going to check out Sioux City, Iowa. Less than 60 days later, now I'm being moved to Sioux City, Iowa. I didn't have a blueprint, right? So I didn't know what my journey was gonna look like. I didn't know exactly the avenue that I was gonna go down. In my high school times, I started out, I was big into sports. So I was playing basketball, football, running track. I was doing some of everything. I was on dance squad and I was leading the squad. We were a really, really big school as far as dance went at the time. And so we weren't doing ballet. It was more like urban dances and stomp the yard and things like that. So we had the all male, and I was loving it. Well, my sophomore year in high school, I got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Me as a child, I was never ever sick. Never had the chicken pox, measles, flu, allergies, nothing. All of a sudden overnight, I can't breathe. I tell my mom, we wound up going to the emergency room 2 days later. They keep me overnight. Me, since I never was familiar with hospitals, I'm thinking this can't be so bad. I'm gonna get a sponge bath from a nurse. I'm gonna get all the ice cream. I'm 15 years old. I'm the age of each and every one of you. Next thing you know, they say, we're gonna ship you to the University of Iowa. We think something's wrong. My parents are, wait, what do you mean something's wrong? I'm at the University of Iowa. They tell my parents, stage 5 Hodgkin's lymphoma. If I would have waited 2 more weeks, I could have just died. Out of nowhere, all throughout my body. Immediately, I go on chemotherapy. I had a port that stuck out of my chest. I still got the scar right here. Had a biopsy on my neck. I experienced everything that everyone else does, right? I went through chemo for 2 years. Whole school knew about it. Whole city knew about it. At the time, I had so much pride, I was never gonna do a GoFundMe or anything like that. My parents just made it work. 2 years later, I go into remission. I didn't never think I was that much of a fighter, because I'll tell you the first thing, once the doctor said, for now I'm cured, I told my mom and grandma, if it comes back, I'm going out comfort care style. My mom said that was what made me the fighter that I was and the fighter that I've continued to be. Because now I have a 6-year-old boy, and now I have a 2-month-old daughter, and I have each and every one of you, right? So now, if it was to come back, do you think I would go through it again? Miss Deja? Oh, you damn right I would. I understood that life was gonna pass me by if I didn't take it a little bit more seriously and use my potential. Got my real estate license, or at least I started taking the classes. My mom, I just moved her and my grandma here around August of 2015. That next morning I wake up to a voicemail from my grandma saying my mom had some pains, and so they were heading to the hospital at 2-3 a.m. in the morning, and of course I call and they say that my mom's she's not feeling very well. I have to go to a training that's in Rochester, New York, and about 4 days into the training I talked to my mom that morning and told her I loved her, and she shot me a text like midway through the day, and it was going okay. So I went to call her back within an hour, and she didn't answer, and I texted her, and I'm thinking maybe she's sleeping, but then I got another call, and this time it was from the hospital, and it said my mom had passed. Now I just lost my mom, so I'm on the next flight right back at 5 a.m. in the morning to Omaha, and now my grandma's super distraught, and this is the time where it really challenges me to step up for my family. At this time I'm at rock bottom, right? I got no house, because we had already signed our lease on our apartment to be out. I got no mom. I got no job. I did have a guy who was at another company, and he kind of kicked my butt into gear. He took me to lunch one day and he asked me the questions about what I was doing to be active in my real estate career. And at the time I was kind of living in the woe is me mentality. Like, I just lost my mom, I didn't have, and so I just wasn't in gear. And he said, I'm gonna be honest, I'm effing disappointed in you. And that's what he says to me. And I just met this man 4 months ago, right? And he's no one that is like, but it was what I needed to hear. It's for me to be able to straighten up. My wife is like, you know what, it's now or never now. You're gonna go out, you're either gonna make it work, or otherwise you're gonna always be wondering what if. So I decided I'm gonna go into real estate full time, and first couple months I just didn't know what it took to really be successful. At that time, when I got in, we went and lived with her aunt, who allowed us to stay in the basement. We're paying our aunt rent, and we're sleeping in an unfinished utility room next to a furnace. We put our bed, our nightstand, our TV in there, and that we're just gonna have to make it work. And we put our son in the bedroom, and so he's living like a king at the age of 3, and we're living in an unfurnished room. So that was a big deal. And of course, every day I think that was motivation for me. Every day that I heard that furnace kick on, and it's literally 2 feet from the edge of my bed. But when hard work meets opportunity, it looks a lot like luck. I was going hard. I was hitting every networking event. I was trying to build every relationship that I could in the city to allow my family to be able to eat. The real estate gods manifested it for me, because they seen that I was hustling, I was grinding, I didn't have another option. I finished off the year, 46 deals, $8 million in volume, and I got the Rookie of the Year here for the Metro. And so when another broker had called me up and really showed me the numbers, as far as what I did compared to anybody else who had got their license in the same time span, I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was wow, but it just showed, like, once you put your mind to something, when I put my mind to something, that it was possible for me. I wanted to be able to help others do what they thought that maybe wasn't possible, because everything that I'd done, again, just 3 years prior, none of this was in my vision. I just knew I had a dollar and a dream. So I decided to start the Casanova Brooks Group, which is where we are now. But another big deal, which happened at the end of 2016, was I purchased my first real estate investment property. I'm feeling great right now, right? I then call one of my mentors up and I said, I just got this property, $22,000. He says, you paid too much for it. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what do you mean I paid too much for it? Like, I felt like I got a steal on it. He says, I wouldn't. So we do the home inspection. Nothing's wrong with the inspection. But again, through the relationships that I built, I heard of a little bit of a tactic. So what I did was I went back and I said, you know, I like the property, everything's good, and I bought it as is. So I said, I like the property, everything's good, but there's still some things that worry me on it. I would like a price reduction. So I'm all in for $24,000. The $18,000 that I bought it for, and then the $6,000 that I put in there. So I'm all in for $24,000. Again, I used my whole line of credit to be able to use the rehab as well as purchase the property. $65,000. I put $6,000 into it, $65,000 now what this property's worth. I now have $40,000 that I can leverage of equity to then go off and purchase something else, which is what I did. So that was a really, really big deal for me. And especially coming from, you know, cancer and you know, the story of not being able to even potentially have kids, I knew that I had to leave a legacy, but at the same time I had to leave a foundation for my family to be able to stand on. Putting yourself out there to the public, to sometimes even your family and friends, can seem very uncomfortable because you feel like nobody else is going to hear your dream the way that you hear it. Nobody else is going to see it the way that you see it. I want to make sure that when I look back that I didn't say, you know, I wonder if I would have just done this. I make sure that I don't have any regrets, because out of everything that life has taught me, you know, with defying death potentially twice and you know, everything I've been able to achieve now, I know that I have a son and a daughter who are looking at me, and they're gonna live their life based off of how I lived my life for the most part, right? And I hope they do it a lot better than what I've done. But I want them to see that Dad didn't have fears, and you take a risk always. As long as it's a calculated risk, take a risk, don't look back. Motivational speaking, I think, has always been something that's come natural to me. And the reason being is because I've always just had a lot of energy in telling my story. I'm definitely most alive when I'm on stage. I'm most alive when I'm having conversations. In general, I love people. I love to be able to give off my energy. I love to be able to see the reaction. I love to be able to pick brains and have conversations and get different perspectives. I think what I bring the best to the table is my energy. And with hearing my story, with being so positive, if that can inspire anybody else to go out there and do such great things, then that's all that I'm about. So I would say I'm most alive when I'm on stage, because I'm able to really share with the world my story and my perseverance and my persistence.
For the things that I've been able to do, there's so many people that are not as fortunate because their circumstances, you know, just didn't allow it, right? And we see the stories all the time, but for me, my goal is to be able to make sure that I can change it for as many people as possible. And it starts with your mindset.